Are you ready to finally make $5,000 a month in your coaching business in the next 30 days or less? Welcome to Embodied Entrepreneur. This podcast helps female entrepreneurs heal trauma and regulate the nervous system so that they can build a profitable, sustainable, and anxiety-free business. I'm your host, Sheridan Ruth. By the end of this episode, you will know the one question you need to ask yourself to make $5,000 this month, the missing piece of your sales strategy, and the number one nervous system foundation to create more momentum and consistency. This episode is a really good one. You're going to want to listen to the end of this one because we're going to cover the most important thing for creating momentum and pleasure. It's also for me, it's the most fun. Big fan of that one. So basically, I want you to think of every single desire that you've ever had. And then I want you to think of, okay, so like you have a desire that you've ever had, right? We have different relationships with that desire. I'm going to make it really simple, and we're going to bring it into something a little bit like more contextual. I can desire a new car, or I can desire something as simple as an ice cream. I can just want that, right? In my head, I'm like, yes, I want that. Maybe even in my heart, I want that. I want that. My body may or may not want that, even though my heart and my head want that. It's the same with like a lover. You may really desire really intimate partnership with all of your heart. And logically in your head, you think about it, you want it, it makes sense. This makes sense. But your body maybe closes off to other people. Your shoulders go in, you avert eye distance, or you find yourself getting defensive or reactive in relationships when they get a little bit too close, or really worried and anxious when they get a little bit far away. Your body, your nervous system has a relationship with the things that you desire. You've done that before. You've had those moments where you're like, I really want this thing, but for some reason I can't just get past myself. For some reason I keep making these mistakes. And for some of us, sometimes it feels like we go on autopilot. For some of us, sometimes it feels like we almost lose control. And we're like, oh, I don't know why I did that, but I did it. And if I had known. And for some of us, sometimes we just can't see another way around. And I'd say that's probably the most common. We have this desire and we can't really see another way to get there, or the correct way to get there. We don't know how to get there in a way that makes sense, or that doesn't exhaust us, or whatever it is, or that doesn't feel icky, or that doesn't make us feel guilty, or whatever. And we sit and we say, I just don't know how to get there. And a lot of this happens with, if I asked you right now, okay, how are you going to make $5,000 in the next 30 days or less? You might say to me, well, I don't really know how. I don't really know how. And that's probably why you're listening to this podcast, right? Because you want to learn how to do it. And so the first thing, because the how for some of you people, it's going to be different, right? I have a client that I was just speaking with right now. For her, how is that she went to a networking event. She was invited onto a panel, and now she's going to pitch her services. I have another client who I spoke with this morning who had a similar situation where she did an event and she was a speaker at an event. I have another client who really likes doing connection calls and sells her services on Instagram. And I have another client who does women's circles and sells her services through women's circles. So she gets to co-host a women's circle with a local wellness center. So the how is going to be a million different things, but none of those things are going to be available. None of your specific ways of seeing how are going to be available to you unless you ask yourself this specific question. The specific question is not going to be oriented towards your heart or your logical thinking mind. We're going to orient it towards your body. Now, if you've ever done any type of expansion call with me, or you've ever worked with me, then you're going to understand what I mean when you say I want you to bring this question, or you've done any type of embodiment practice, is I want you to bring this question down into your body. And that might be a little bit hard to do on a podcast. And if that's the case, you're invited to book an embodied sales call. We'll do a similar practice that goes more in depth, where you will answer this question. And if your answers to this question align with what I do, then we'll talk about working together. But let's just give it a go here and now. Just see what we can find, hey? I want you to take a few deep breaths and question and connect with your body. And I want you to think of your goal, the thing that you want. For the sake of this podcast, we're going to make it $5,000 made in the next 30 days or less. Just holding your goal, awareness on your body, awareness on your breath. And as you ask this question, your job isn't to get a specific answer, it's to notice what comes up. You're going to ask, how do I make $5,000 in my coaching business in the next 30 days or less? And some of you, if you contemplate this for long enough, you're going to notice thoughts. Some of you are going to notice tension in your body. Some of you are going to notice emotions come up now and later on in the day. And some of you are going to have hows that come up. Oh, I can sell this. I can do that. I can ask this person. And some of you are going to have other thoughts of, oh, well, I would do this, but I'm worried about what they're going to think about me. Or it feels blank and numb. Whatever it is that you have come up, unless it is a very clear, straight line to bringing that income in, that is a barrier to your success that your body is putting. Even if it feels like there's nothing, even if it feels like you can't, especially if it feels like you can't. Especially if you ask that question, you didn't get a clear answer. Those are your barriers to success. And we need to understand those barriers to success and where they really come from and what wisdom they hold. Because they are like the murky mud between you and connecting with your somatic intelligence, the somatic intelligence that literally runs through your entire body and wants to insert you into the places where you are able to use your God-given gifts to do good things in the world and be paid abundantly for it. So this is the one question. Take that away. Let me know how it goes when you ask, like if you have any questions around that, because it's an embodiment practice. And I'm trying to give you a little bit of a practice and a tool and an awareness in a platform that's extremely difficult to do. Usually when I do this with clients, we're sitting in a contemplative meditation with each other and there's a lot of space and safety. And so the answers we get are extremely different to the ones that you're going to get right now, but I'm trying to be generous. So here we go. So the next thing, the missing piece of your sales strategy is that it is not a somatic sales strategy. It's not simple and it's not focused. A nervous system aware strategy is going to feel really fun to execute. It's going to play on your gifts, what excites you, and it's going to limit how much you need to kind of go into your limitations, right? So if you're really afraid of being seen, when you're going to develop a somatic sales strategy that feels safe to get out there and be visible to the people that want to purchase from you, without feeling like you're exposing yourself too much each day, right? And so the somatic sales strategy needs to be something that you can show up into and feel like you are selling something that you are an expert in. Like it's this embodied experience. Like it's this firmness in your bones. It's this firmness and it's the way that you speak. It's the confidence that you walk with. It's this embodied sense of this is what I sell. I'm really freaking good at it. And I've got this. It's this somatic sense that is tangible, that you can feel, that you can touch, that the people around you look at you go, and she knows what she's freaking doing. It's the somatic, that's what a somatic sales strategy is. And so part of it is understanding, well, what is it that I do? And part of it is understanding, well, what is it? How do I want to sell this in a way that makes me light up, the way that feels like I'm just connecting with people? And it's important here, and we have another episode that you are going to need to listen to. I'm going to link it below, and it's called Why You Need to Throw Away Your Sales Script. And we're talking about a little bit more about what this somatic sales strategy is. And it's really coming from that regulated nervous system where we want to connect with people. We want to help them. So a somatic sales strategy is regulated, it's embodied, you have an authority, and it is simple and focused, because a regulated nervous system has simple, focused, potent energy. If we think all the way back to the elements, if you go back, I think episodes 37 to 40, we talk about the elements of the world and how they relate to our nervous system. As an embodied entrepreneur with a somatic sales strategy, you want to be evoking these benevolent elements of groundedness and clarity. In Ayurvedic medicine, we call this sattva. These clear, wise, embodied sense of security, of confidence, of compassion for self and others, of connection. And that sattvic space is very simple and focused. Energy is very simple and focused. So your sales strategy also needs to be simple and focused. Now, for a lot of people that work with me, we will work on selling one offer most of the time for the 4 months that we work together, because it helps us refine our sales process more, because we're just focusing on one thing. We get more information than if we were to focus on a broad spectrum of things. Now, I have clients who don't like doing that, and they will sell numerous things, or they'll sell numerous things after they work with me, but they're still using the somatic sales strategy, so it's going to be more effective. It's a focused energy. So we're focusing, okay, like I'm a projector in human design. I'm not interested in spending a lot of energy running around doing things for no reason. So in order to use potent nervous system energy and still spend time with your friends and your family and making tacos and going out and dancing and doing all your hobbies and studying and getting another certification, we're going to focus on selling one thing, and we're going to make sure all of the actions inside of our business support selling that, so that you can bring money in and feel more nourished in every single thing that you do.
We would need to execute on that, right?
Yes, exactly. If we're not executing, what are we doing? It's great to talk about all of these things, but we need to execute them. It's great to think about them. We need to plan them. It's great to feel them in your body, but we need to execute, right? You're completely right. So how do we execute for momentum? And by the way, guys, if you're new to the podcast, this is Freya. She is my little co-host who is asking the questions that you're asking while she builds her business along you guys, anxiety-free. So how do we execute for momentum? We bring in pleasure. No, I don't mean sex. We bring in pleasure. Your nervous system is regulated by pleasure. Your nervous system, it's made to do a couple of things. Number one, run away from stress. And number two, pursue pleasure, things that feel good. So not only does evoking pleasure, so looking for pleasure and prioritizing feeling pleasure in your body actually decrease your stress response, decrease your cortisol, and make your body feel safer to pursue the actions that need to be taken in order to build your business. But it does two things. One, it makes it feel safer, and two, it actually makes us want to do it more because we naturally want to pursue that pleasure. So every single thing that you're doing inside of your business needs to include pleasure. Make it fun. Don't do anything that's boring. Yeah, we have to do admin tasks. I get bored. Like I was just saying to a friend of mine this morning, I was like, I was working yesterday. I was bored. And so it's my job when I notice myself getting bored or I'm scared of doing something to pull pleasure in. You can do this by listening to different podcasts as you do admin work, or like music, having special playlists, having a special type of coffee, using essential oils. You can, I have come from a background of Tantra yoga, so I use a lot of breath work and my senses. I'm looking out the window right now at this really beautiful red bird. Like it's so red and it's in this beautiful green tree. And I just look at that and breathe that in, and I bring pleasure into each moment. So, and that might be a topic for another podcast, but how can you bring pleasure in? How can you bring pleasure into every single thing that you do? And especially when you are doing something that is a little bit more difficult, or you like to procrastinate it, you don't like doing it, can you do something that I call a pleasure sandwich? Oh my God, the pleasure sandwich is my favorite thing to do. This is how I have had so many sales conversations, because I used to hate talking about selling my services. So I started doing this thing called the pleasure sandwich, which was whenever I mentioned my service to somebody or what I did, or had a conversation about how I can help people, beforehand, I would do something really, really pleasurable, just pleasurable, just for the sake of it being pleasurable. And then afterwards, I would have to do something that's pleasurable. And you have to make time for it. You cannot cheat out of it. It's right before and right after. And for me, for a long time, it was coffee. And sometimes it's listening to some music or watching a little bit of Netflix, something that just evokes pure pleasure and joy and goodness. That's your job. When you can build pleasure in, you will execute with more momentum. You will regulate your nervous system, and you will be 1,000 steps closer to finally making $5,000 a month in your coaching business in the next 30 days. You'll find the episode below on why you need to throw away your sales strategy and how to create your somatic sales strategy instead. And I can't wait for you to hear it.